Chairman Collins.
This webinar is being.
Now we're recording. So if you want to call to order, we can get started.
Thank you. Call to order the meeting of the Engineering Committee of June 4th, 2026.
Thanks, sir. For a roll call then, we've got James Collins,
Here.
Dr. Ash,
Here.
Alton Heathcote, Philip Lim, Jason Carter,
Here.
and Eddie Jett. Okay, well, we do have quorum. So I guess we can just take the first order of business then, which is application reviews. And I believe we have two, and they're both on the iPads as well. So any order you want to take those, we'll jump in.
Why don't we start with the prior discussion action review?
Okay. All right, you've got a summary there along with the supports. And I trust you had an opportunity to digest that.
I guess just sort of a quick summary of this. It appears as though this particular person has been denied or has been received sanctions from other boards, has had his license suspended in a couple of other states. When he applied here, he did not report his prior action that had been taken against him. So the question, I guess, is how do we want to proceed? Do we want to allow him to
Correct.
move forward with his application, or do we want to deny?
Yep, that's a really good summary. You nailed it. And I highlighted the two in particular as well, where the revocations came from, and both of those were Kentucky, and then as recent as in Delaware as well. So yeah, and you've gotten the dates on those are pretty recent, 2024 and 2026.
So the statement he made on his application to us was not true. He did not reveal all this information.
That is
His
correct.
answers were not truthful, so to speak.
If you look at page 3 of his application, it's 4 pages in. The summary is your template or your intro page, but 3 pages in, very top, you'll see, have you been denied registration or had your professional license suspended, revoked, or voluntarily surrendered as a result of disciplinary proceedings? And then there he marked no.
No, okay. Based on that, I don't see how we can actually allow him to proceed with his application.
Agreed.
If that's the will of the committee, then just a vote to memorialize that in that regard.
So moved.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Heathcote. Do we have a second? Got a second from Mr. Carter?
Okay.
And by voice vote, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, then we'll inform him appropriately. Thank you, Ms. Ashley. Then our other one is Mr. Ramirez. If you wanted to open that up, I guess.
Yeah. So I haven't had a chance to look at this one. I just saw it for the first time this morning. I don't know if anybody else has had a chance to review it yet. Ramirez?
I was one.
Yeah, it was a late arrival.
I was on the latest review, and without previous knowledge, just looking at his experience, it appears that most of the experience in the early years was technician level. So I pitched the question back to our board staff, and board staff replied back to me, yeah, it was the board denied him the first time because it felt like his experience was mainly technician. So, but if you look at it, that's been over close to a year ago now. So he probably had a little bit more experience now. So it's kind of a threshold whether you want to tell him to earn a little bit more experience, or I have no doubt he can do the work, but it's just that he was at a disadvantage when he first applied. So thank you.
And there's thank you, Mr. Lim. We really appreciate that summary and for that prompt. And as there's a broader discussion, maybe not necessarily for today, but as you know, with a engineering technology pathway on the horizon, July 1, we're going to have to think about a rules package will be coming with the consolidation and engineering technology pathway. And so we need to look at what qualifies as experience, because if we have a pathway for engineering technology, we wouldn't be able to disqualify engineering technology experience.
Well,
but
I thought we did have a pathway for engineering technology.
you sort of do. It's pathway 4, which is really a master's pathway. It just preserves the engineering technology and undergrad, but 3 and 4 are really the same. 3 and 4 are a master's pathway, but a true engineering technology, like a 4-year degree pathway, that didn't exist until July 1, that what statute being changed recently. So we'll have to look at those rules. So that's a broader discussion, not to muddy the waters on this one. For this particular fella, the one thing that would prohibit by statute, and legal will provide some guardrails here for us, but it does say under the experience under a licensed engineer. And since he lacks that, I don't know that we have a pathway for him just because of that. But it is worth discussing that those technician sort of experience. We'll have to have that discussion down the road.
One of the things I know that we've done in the past, if somebody's working for a firm that doesn't have licensed engineers on staff, is that they probably affiliate with other entities, like if they're in industry, there may be somebody that is at their home office that's an engineer. Or they may have vendors or suppliers that they work with on a regular basis that are engineers. And we have in the past given them credit towards that, as long as those individuals did represent that they had worked with them and felt like their pathway should be approved.
Right on. And the supervision under a licensed engineer, we don't have sponsors like they do in appraisers, where it's pretty clear. And so that the board has to use its discretion, as you just described. Another issue is where there's comedy. That's more of a concern with initials because they're not already licensed. But with comedy apps, they're already licensed, so they're not going to get supervision where they're already licensed. You know what I mean? Like, there wouldn't be a need to get supervision when you're a licensed, engineer in another jurisdiction. You wouldn't do that. That would be kind of silly. And in essence, you're still qualifying under that pathway because it says a licensed engineer. That licensed engineer may be yourself, but you're still licensed, and so you're responsible for your own plat. So just worth having that, that discussion, getting that out there. But for this, now back to this particular applicant, I don't know that we, at this current venture or juncture, have a pathway for him, just because the statute says under a licensed engineer.
Well, it could be, to Alton's point, this individual works for an industry and his immediate supervisor might not be licensed, but I'd be willing to bet that somebody in his chain of command is.
Yeah.
And or, like I said, the vendors that they work really closely with, or subcontractors or consultants or other things that they work with on a regular basis, who would be willing to serve as a reference for them.
Well, and that, they in their 5 references, they have engineers and, that will, attest to their proclivity or their competence. So in essence, that is a supervision. I mean, you can attest something if you're not, actively engaged in a project. So there is opportunity there. I guess what I should say is NCWS doesn't necessarily qualify that unless there's a distinct line, but we have to, of course, get into it. So that's fine. So I guess, do you believe this particular fella, reaches that standard, or, do we need something further from him to help you make that decision? And maybe Philip, you could help us with that discussion.
So I think you're saying that his first 4 years of experience probably doesn't count, but his past 2 years probably does, provided he could provide some level of, someone in his chain of command that would sign off for him. So he probably has 2 years of experience that would count, but not 4.
Well, I mean, we dealt with this situation before, many years ago, when most people who work for electric utility industry are bosses, not PE. So in order to push for the licensure in the utility space, especially I call it TVA space, is to let them say, if your boss, immediate boss is not, we do call it L shape. That doesn't mean limb, okay? So nothing. So L shape means that if you got somebody that is your peer or somebody that consultant, and I specifically can tell you that through my career, I have many people, they work for consultant that really, their bosses are really not engineers. They're engineers, but they're not licensed engineers. So because of that, we allow that path. So I'm thinking more, when I just review his application, the thought just keep coming back to me. How much of the things that he's done is technician level? By the same token, I also know that the fact that he's been in this industry long enough that I think we might be able to find enough time in that time that he worked, maybe that 4 years, he could prove to us during the 4 year he did work with some licensed engineers, have somebody have him send a letter of affidavits from people that are willing to validate his experience. Not so much about his character. Yes, it's important to have his character, but the main thing for reference is more his technical ability. We're looking for the progressive engineering experience, and I feel like he has it. So
So for two things then, broadly speaking, if everyone could just be, because we're gonna have to do a rules package anyway, so it's an opportunity to look at our rules. If you could look at the experience, rules and see if there's some things that we can do, because the last thing we want to do is get in our own way, you know, if that can be modernized or updated, that'd be a good opportunity to really be thinking about that. So we don't have to do that today. That wasn't the purpose of today's meeting, but that's something to be thinking about. And then back to our candidate, Mr. Ramirez. Mr. Lim, if you're okay with it, we'll reach out to him and just, obviously, where it's not clear, the onus would be on him to show that. So we'll ask him to provide some more support, and if not, then it'll just stand as it is.
Yeah.
Now.
based on the letter from the previous letter from the board was July of 2025, that we, at that time, the board determined that he doesn't have enough experience to tell him to earn some more experience. So one way for you to converse with him is this individual is to tell him that if you can find supporting evidence that during your so-called technician experience, you really work with some of the registered engineer.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you.
Well, we'll communicate that to him, and Ashley will be reaching out to him or Megan, and we'll communicate that line to him and see how he responds. So I don't think there's any action. I think that we just needed some consulting from the committee on that. And so unless there's a new business that won't cut into our bylaws committee, we can entertain that.
I think we do have one other piece of new business, Dr.
Yes,
Ash.
it's an application for an issue restoration,
Okay.
and the applicant has applied last year.
Sorry, you're on mic. Yep.
It's application for initial registration, and the applicant has applied last year, and his application was denied because of lack of proper experience. He did not have the number of years of experience. So he applied this year. Now he has the experience, but in the question regarding have you ever been denied registration, he said no. I'm sure he didn't mean any harm, or he didn't mean to lie or give us an untruthful statement. He probably was thinking that, this is my first license, and I haven't applied in any license
Right.
before. So I was thinking that maybe in our denial letter, we told him he's encouraged to apply next year when he has enough experience. If there's something we can say besides that, so when it comes to answering that particular question, we alert them that they should say yes and explain, and that basically makes it go away. And there is nothing else we need to do. But the answer no was, if you look at it technically, is not correct because he was denied last year.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that we may have another statement, maybe one sentence added to similar letters in the future to explain how he can handle that question.
That's a good,
yeah.
we,
Yes, first time I've seen that, and I thought probably most of us haven't seen that either.
mhm. No, that's a great statement. Obviously, we're not looking to jam somebody up on honest
Exactly.
mistakes, health, safety, welfare. We're looking for those folks that are misrepresenting, they had, like what we had before, prior discipline, is pretty clear. It was recent. And then they're like, no, I'm good, well, that's who we're targeting, but folks that sort of fat finger, their resume. And then we've had folks that answered yes. And then we reach out to them and then they're like, oh, I didn't mean to answer yes, it's no. And then and we just take that clarification, add it to their file for documentation in case they come back and we find out it was actually yes, and that, that sort of thing. So we'll just get clarification. And we typically instruct them too that, so we've had some folks say, well, we thought denials were for disciplinary action. And, you know, and no, it's denials are denials, you know, wherever they are. And so that question could potentially just, it could be probably hard, tightened up a little bit. So to make folks realize that, no, we mean all denials to application, disciplinary action or otherwise. So that's something to look at. I'll take a look at that. All right, anything else?
Any other business for this committee?
All
Don't
right,
see anything.
we are ready for bylaws committee. Since it has to be a continuous meeting, we can't tap out or adjourn. So we got to go all the way through until we flow into the full board. We can recess if we have any time left, but let's move into the bylaws committee then. Mr. Collins, if you want to call us to order.
Yep. Call the bylaws committee to order.
And then if we have any members that want to work their way up here, we'll take the roll call. I like to keep you guessing. All right. All right. So bylaws then, roll call, James Collins,
Here?
Rick Thompson, Blair Parker, Alton Hefcoat,
I'm here.
Melanie Doss, and Jeff Nally. All right. You have quorum, Chair.
Okay, Glenn sent out previously marked up version of the bylaws that had what I captured from our last meeting of things that people wanted to see edited or changed or moved around or whatever. And so I'd just like to kind of go through those. Maybe we just kind of go through them in order. If anybody has any particular questions about any one of the markups, we could just talk about those as well.
I have just 3, if that's
Sure.
okay. I know, and I think we voted on this, and I think we've determined what our new seal is going to look like now. And I noticed on Part 2 board seal that we still have the architectural engineering examiners and didn't include the surveyors. Do we want to modify that to include the new seal?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's one. Let's see. The second one, James, is on Part 5, election of board officers. And again, we talk about the chair rotation, but one of the things that wasn't included in that, do we need to enter a surveyor into the chair rotation?
Yeah, so if you look at the latest version, that is included in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have gone through, at least I went through all of the sections and added in the land surveyors in places where they were missed, and hope that should be in this version that you're looking at now.
Okay, great. And then the last one, you probably already addressed then, section 6.06, the outreach committee. The one I'm looking at didn't have land surveyor on there, but you may have already edited that in.
That was a suggestion. He did include it in his comments. If you look on the highlight, James, you can speak better for yourself than I could, but it was included as a discussion topic. Yeah. Like, do you want to? So I guess if you're going to claim the land surveyors or not, I don't know if you really have a choice. They're coming.
Did you include them in that section, or is that something that we intentionally?
Yeah, so I need to add that.
By intention or by accident?
Overlook.
We have a dozen of chairs. And we're in trouble.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
Yeah, that's an overlook, so
Okay.
we'll add that in.
Okay. Those are the 3 that I had.
Yeah. And kind of while we're in the committees too, I guess one of the other questions that I had was in the landscape architect committee. Didn't know if we have, of course, the landscape architect member, architect board member, engineer board member, wanted to know if we wanted to add a land surveyor to that committee or not. Or do we need just, the committee members that we have, is that adequate, or do we want to add another?
I don't know that I have an opinion on that, other than right now we're set up with designers and land surveyors. I'm not sure what they do is a little bit different potentially.
Okay,
So I'm fine to leave it to 3 people.
okay.
But if we feel like it's advisable to add land surveyors, I'm good with that as well.
Okay. Yeah, well, we don't need to add them in a place where there's no need for them to be. Okay. All right. All right. Anybody else have? Yeah, Rick?
Yeah.
So I broke it?
Oh, when I got up, okay. Oh, thank you. My comments are directed to section 6.02, architect, engineer, land surveyors, landscape architects, and interior design committees. It identifies all the professionals, board members, professions, of course, and part of, let me find it, sorry. It references the architect committee shall be, excuse me, composed of 3 architect board members, engineer committee should be 3, et cetera, et cetera. And he goes down to landscape and interior, and they've got 1. I don't see any mention anywhere in here about the public member. Is that should that be part of this? It's not in there.
You can, there's freedom, in that regard. So yeah, they obviously, the public member is sort of the Swiss Army knife in your box. So you can put them just about anywhere.
Tiebreaker.
Yeah, that's right.
And then that leads me to another question about when the land surveyors come on board. Are we going to have an additional public member? Because then we're going to have an even number of votes and we won't have.
We will not. We have 15 total. When I was looking at the bill, I was looking for that too. So we're gonna have the public members of both of them arm wrestle for it. And Jeff now he looks like he might
Yeah.
just come on top.
Yeah.
No, I don't know who that public member is going to be. They're joining with us, so I would suspect that Jeff and Mr. Nally would remain, but I don't know that yet.
Yeah.
So, and I think they're still kind of working that out so we'll see. Yeah.
Well, my opinion on that is that Jeff's been on this board and our members are more diverse than them bringing in someone else that's going to replace Jeff. And I would hope that whoever makes that decision understands that thought process.
Yeah. And well, you must know that the other public member is an engineer.
Oh, so even more. Even more. And then my last comment is that typically how we are assigned or chosen by the governor is that, and the way it was explained to me and the way I've always understood it to be, is that each of the members represents a division in the state, the Grand Division, East, Middle, and West. It makes no reference to that. It just says 3 architects. It can be all from Memphis, the way this is written. And we know that'd be a disaster. No, I just wonder if is that something that we could put in here and just, or not?
Yeah, so I think if you read it carefully, it says that the architect committee should be composed of the 3 architect board members. And then the board members are defined from each grand division of the state, I think, in the TCA.
Yeah. The bylaws will be subordinate to TCA.
Okay, so it
you'll
is
be fine.
noted
Yeah.
in there. Okay,
That's right.
I just
Right.
wouldn't reference back to that.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
so-
and I think last thing is it designates that the interior designer member shall serve as chair of this committee.
Of the interior design committee.
Okay, I misread that, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, so to go back to your first question, I guess, what's the will of the committee as far as adding public member to each of those committees? And Jeff, what do you think? Would you want to be a member of each of those committees?
Or just one, whatever.
I'm going to retract something I said earlier because I'm thinking about Jeff and his involvement. He understands the design profession. So when I mentioned that I don't see the need to add another person, But I think that we can wear ourselves out having too many members on our committees. I think for landscape architecture, 3 makes good sense to me, whether that's 1 from each of the, engineer, architect, interior, whatever. It doesn't really matter to me as long as we have a landscape architect on that committee. So, and having a public member on there would actually be fine too. So if we want to change the language that gives us that ability to have 3 board members, one of which is in LA and, 2 others, that would be fine too.
Are these committee descriptions, is that at minimum, or this is the rule?
Yes. So the way that I read it, it says shall be composed of.
So, because I would like to have the landscape architect on the interiors committee, but it's always been our understanding that the chairperson assigns those committees at the beginning of their term. And so just as long as this is the minimum or the general requirement would be, and we can add, if we choose, we can add a public member to a committee that is relative to that public member's capabilities. So I'm wondering if this is in stone or if it can be interpreted that we can, there's some flexibility.
Your bylaws are sort of your baseline, what you believe are absolutely necessary committees to have sort of standing committees, Now, it doesn't mean that you you meet when you have business. But, the chair has the prerogative to, business isn't going to shut down because it's not listed on the bylaws is what I'm saying. If you get to the point, you're like, we need a bylaws committee, like what we're having right now, then you can do that. And so there's not, you just call one order and same with, and the boards have that prerogative organizationally to do that. Trek is meeting right now. They have a disciplinary action subject matter expert review committee, and they just, that's a mouthful. You couldn't anticipated that you would need such a committee until you needed it, and so now they do. And so they have one, and it's only, forming until they fulfill their purpose. And so same here, you'd be okay. And, not every statute requires the bylaws, since ours does, then this is really the point of this exercise. But there's freedom is what I'm saying, to do it, if you see a need to be able to fulfill that.
I do have one more comment.
Yeah.
Just have a question about the seal. And landscape architects, engineers, land surveyors. Those are the 4 professions that are Practice Act. And so there are 3 on the seal. Is there a reason why landscape architects are not on the seal?
Statute. It's the seal just basically articulates what the name of the board is. And so because the board's name is architects and engineers, that's why it has that listed on the seal. And then in their seal, I think below they can put landscape architect as a part of the seal, as their own personal seal. But the seal of the board is the name of the board by statute. And that's why this seal will include architects, engineers, and land surveyors, because by statute, they're in that is the name of the board. And so that's why it'll be included. But, there's other, we sort of have a mega board now with the land surveyors, and as you know, in other jurisdictions, you guys travel with your associations. Typically you would have sort of architects, landscape architects, interior designer in their own little thing, and then land surveyors and engineers in theirs. And so they'll list them, as a result, the board, the Mississippi Board of Landscape Architect, or architects, landscape architects, and interior designer, or whatever. And the reason why we don't do that here, it'd be quite a seal. Be doing that, right? We'd have like an addendum. So the statute, really is what dictates that. We don't have any input on that at all.
Glenn, I don't fully understand that, but you tell me that's how it is. That's how it is. It would be nice to have landscape architects on there as well, but I realize it makes it a huge seal. But other boards around the nation have used the abbreviations on their seals. You know, so-
Yeah, but if you go to their statute, it lists it like that. Like if you, because they're broken up, you know, and so I think what happened is 1921, when the board was formed, you know, it was just architects and engineers, and they kept adding. And they just never went back in the statute and changed it. And then we had this consolidation under the new public chapter, and they just took the board name and they just like, well, land surveyor, you know, and they, so, but unless it showed up in the statute, and those other places you're talking about, just, you know, functionally, it would probably be more complete to do that. And so, and in those jurisdictions you're talking about, they have done that in the statute, and that's why it's listed.
You know, as I remember, it was the Architects and Engineers Board. Landscape architecture, when we came around, we were a subcommittee, and so then we were at some point elevated into the same position, if you will. What I hear you saying is that the statute was not changed at that time.
Right.
That's right.
That's correct, yeah. At least the name. The
Right.
statute was named, was changed to incorporate the land surveyor as a part of the composition, but the name was not changed.
Right.
Okay. Just to kind of wrap up on the having the additional committee members there, what's the will of the committee? Are we okay with just leaving it like it is with the flexibility to add them, or do we want to add a statement to this that the individual committee chairs have the ability to add other board members to their committee as appropriate?
That sounds like a good statement.
The reason
Yeah,
I like it because it then is very clear.
yes,
It's not left up to interpretation in the future.
yes,
I like it as well.
yes.
I do too. I think it ought to be up to the chairman of the committees to ask whoever they'd like to ask if they think it would be to their benefit.
Okay. All right, I'll craft some language for that and put it in there.
Good, thank you,
Mhm.
thank you.
All right. Any other thoughts or questions on the bylaws? Right,
Got your mic there.
Mike?
I'm not on the committee, but I do have one question. In the chair rotation, when it gets down to interior designer, landscape architect, or public member, why is that written that way?
So that's the way the bylaws are written now. For the third spot, it says that it's written that way. We added in a fourth spot for the land surveyor to put them in the rotation, but I don't know the history behind why it's written the way that it is now.
Yeah, because it's written interior designer / landscape architect rather than common landscape architect is there a purpose for that? I guess you're saying you don't know, but
Yeah,
I don't know what the purpose would be.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess so are you suggesting that we basically make 6 people in the rotation and name it out that way? Or are you okay with the fourth spot being, you know, either the interior designer, landscape architect, or public member?
I assume the intent was it to be one of those. for
One of the
fourth
3.
spot.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I just thought it was written kind of strangely.
I think some of that might have been based on population served.
Meaning registrants?
Right.
Well, in that regard, we have, 18,000 engineers, 8,000 architects, 1,200 land surveyors, 600-ish interiors and/or landscape architects. The way I read this is that there's a rhythm that goes on. And so when you get to that slot of a engineer, architect, land surveyor, then you have a choice between the 3: public member, interior designer, and landscape architect. So am I reading that correctly?
Yeah.
I think that's my understanding too, Blair.
Okay. Well, it seems to me the land surveyors are getting a lot greater representation than some of the others on the board.
How many registrants do the land surveyors have?
Yeah, yeah, I'll have to go off the top of my head. Generally speaking, I'll just run through the list. You're looking at about a little over 18,000 engineers, 4,500 architects, land surveyors about 1,200. You're looking at about 550, maybe right at 600 for landscape architects, and then 300 interior designers.
And one. Obviously, we also have the at-large member,
Right,
public member.
right. 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 Yeah, and then Tennessee, you're looking at a little bit more than half. It's funny because the design professions are a little bit more than 50% out of state residents for you guys. Land surveyors is the other way around, so they're more in-state residency. They're like 700 out of their 11 or 12 that are in-state. So that's kind of an interesting
That's an interesting
phenomenon.
factor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one thing, it does say this is the suggested rotation, so you all would be able to switch it up if you decided you didn't want to follow that exactly.
It, historically, with adding someone else to the board and the rotation that we've been doing, I would suggest that maybe land surveyors go behind the others, the landscape and interiors, so they could get a better feel of how this board does business and not just move into that slot any sooner than more experienced board members.
We can do that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got folks already in the pipeline, so, you're in your lion's share, so that would make sense for continuity. So now we just got to figure out who the designated survivor is, since we've got continuity of government already. Jeff, it looks like it's you. Take really good notes.
So we're still looking at 5.02 chair rotation. Number 4, interior designer / landscape architect. Should that not be a comma?
Yeah.
Sorry, my grammar.
No, I love it, man. Yeah, Joey.
And one other thing I wanted to point out in section 5.01, they have to be on the board for a minimum of 2 years before they're eligible to be the chair. And so off the bat, the land surveyors would not be eligible for 2 years.
Yeah, and the way the rotation is set up now, they would be on before that 2-year period happened, so. Yeah, so if we move them to the end, like Rick suggested, that puts them in the right spot, so they have their 2 years on this board before they can serve as chair. All right, any other comments, questions, concerns? All right, so as far as us moving forward, we do have the one sentence that I'm going to add into 602. We'll make those couple edits to add the surveyors in the 606 and the border in 502. Do we need, Glenn, will this committee need to meet again next month to approve those before it goes to the full board, or can we take it to the full board in August as well?
I think what probably we'll do is, if you're okay with it, I mean, you're going to be doing your additional red lines, is we'll have several committee meetings anyway. And we can put this committee in that rotation just to see if there's something that came up that we didn't think of, so that we need to discuss. It'd
Okay.
probably be a really quick meeting. I'll probably put them either first to get them out of the way or towards the end of that pile. And then you can just say, yeah, no, looks good. And then take it to the board then,
Okay,
just in case there's something else you need to hammer out.
all right. That's okay with the rest of the committee. We'll proceed in that direction.
Do we need a motion for that, or are we just?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for that, because we don't have a final product yet. We're still, we're in discussion right now, and then we'll have a product, a work product
Yeah.
at next meeting. Yep.
I do want to thank James for the effort he's
Yeah.
made to get this updated.
So,
Yeah, glad to do it. Glad to
mhm.
do it.
Yeah, James is our law clerk, and then Blair is over there. He's like our grammar guy, I don't run any, I don't put anything out to the public without letting Blair look at it.
Okay,
He'll
all
catch
the lawyers put your fingers in
Yeah.
the Don't you accuse me of that.
it. So yeah, good deal. Thank you, James. I appreciate your work.
Yep.
All right. Anything else that you wanted to discuss or We good on that?
Is it any other, I don't think there's anything else for this committee? All right, I think we're good.
Okay. All right, I'm just making a note to keep me on track. All right, well then, I think we can take a recess and then we'll need to be back in our chairs in 13 minutes at 10. All right, we'll recess. We'll see you at 10 o'clock. Chair, at your pleasure, we can go ahead and get started whenever you want to gavel us in.
I would like to call to order the Thursday, June 4th, 2026 meeting of the Board of Architectural and Engineering Examiners.
Yes, sir. All right. Then for roll call, Frank Wagster,
Here.
Jeff Nally, Philip Lim,
Yeah.
Jason Carter,
Here.
Dr. Ashraf El-Sayed, Rick Thompson,
Here.
Brian Tibbs, Blair Parker,
Here.
Melanie Doss,
Here,
Alton Heathcote,
Present in service to my state.
all right, James Collins, and Eddie Jett. So, all right, we do have quorum, Chair. So I think we'll keep working our way down the agenda if that's okay with you. Notice of the public comment period, just so you know, is it located at the end of the agenda as always. So right before we adjourn, we'll give an opportunity for the public or anyone that would like to make a comment to do so. They can do that online by signing in there at that time, and we'll acknowledge those folks, or signing in the podium over my right shoulder to the left of the board. And then we'll acknowledge folks that are physically present as well. The meeting notice of the June 4th, 2026 meeting of the Board of Architectural and Engineering Examiners has been noticed on the website since September 25th, 2025. This month's agenda was posted on May 28th, 2026. And then for announcements, unless there's any other announcements, I just have one. I'll pause for a second, see if there's any other announcements across the board. All right, so then I have one announcement. When we get to the agenda, if we can add NCWS Southern Zone interim meeting update to the agenda after certs and seals. And just when we get to that space, when we get to the agenda, if we could do that, I'd appreciate that. All right, so we are ready to adopt the agenda. So with that addition recommended, I would appreciate that.
Move to adopt the agenda as amended.
We have a motion to adopt the
Second.
agenda. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir. All right, then we are ready for the meeting minutes from our last meeting.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 2nd meeting?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, looks like we're ready for professional society reports. Ms. Anderson, if you wouldn't mind.
Good morning. Casey Anderson with ACEC Tennessee, also representing the Tennessee Society of Professional Engineers. Thanks for having us, as always. Just a quick update. Wanted to let you know that I'm thrilled to say that ACEC National has adopted a new strategic plan, and included in the top 4 priorities for this year to really move the needle on includes licensure protection, specifically to defend state-based licensure structures, elevate the profession's value to society, and counter threats to engineering role in safeguarding the public. And so I'm just excited that that has typically been something that NSPE and the technical societies that are professional societies versus trade sometimes really focuses on, and to have the power of ACEC behind that, I think it's going to be really important and allow us to develop some really great materials. We've got some new videos that are complete and are really going to put some horsepower and some money behind making sure those protections stay in place. So along those lines, we've got the ACC Tennessee Board Retreat is next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in Charlotte. So that will be among the discussion points. But if y'all have anything you want to add for us to discuss at that meeting, we'd be happy to do so. Along those same lines, we are continuing ongoing discussions with NCWS to talk about potential options for some of the legislative concerns around biometrics. So we are continuing that conversation that we've been having for the last 2 years around biometrics and the use of those in the testing process. Outside of that, we last month had our ACC TDOT partnering conference at the Chattanooga Convention Center. It was 3 days. We had about 800 people there. Offered 13.5 PDHs in that bailiwick. So you'll see a lot of those come through in next year's piece. Really, really great event, really great content. And so thrilled that went off well. Our leadership PE class, which are typically sort of 8 to 12 year folks. For the most part, that's kind of the average. Graduated last week. We had 30 students. Most of them were from consulting engineering firms, but some were also from TDOT, TDEC, and TVA. We had their graduation in the Capitol last week, and they went through a 6-month leadership process, and they are the future of who is going to be leading our firms and leading our profession. And let me tell you, they are some outstanding people. So we're thrilled about that. We are going to probably send out in the next week or so the call for maybe 2 weeks, if I'm being honest, the call for presentations for the Tennessee Engineers Conference, which will be September 20th to 22nd at the Franklin Marriott. And just going about our daily business, and appreciate all of the hard work that you all do, and excited to see actually the focus that you all had even just this morning. It's just, it matters a lot what you all do to protect the professions represented here, and we're grateful for it. So that's all I have. Thank you kindly.
Casey, are you going to want us to present at the engineers conference like you have?
I would love that. If y'all want to go ahead and block, if we stick with the same schedule we have in the past, that would put you all on September 22nd. On that last day's luncheon, if y'all are willing to do that. I think it's nice for that closing luncheon to be really about the profession itself. So I would appreciate that if that is something that needs to go through this group now. Happy for y'all. Thank you for the question.
That's great. The only time we would need like prior approval for travel is if there was a registration fee involved, at that point, because then that's a travel authorization. But standard travel for outreach doesn't need prior approval. It's just sort of part of the job, So
I think most of us will probably plan on being there anyway.
yeah.
I forgot something.
No, so September 22nd, mark your calendars in, and then probably in August or thereafter, we'll firm up, who can go and who would be willing to be a part of that. So, and by then we'll be past our meeting too, our NCWS meeting too. So that'd be good.
Can I add something to my report?
ma'am.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I will not be well received back at the office if I don't mention the enormous efforts and undertaking of workforce development that we are in the process of. We have a really strong committee, the ACC's national committee. The former chair of the brand new national committee was Rodney Chester of Gresham Smith. The new chair is Susan Osterberg, who's the CEO of SSR. So we are the state rollout of everything. And so we're really trying to develop the future of our professions, and working toward an agreement with a certain professional soccer team on an ongoing program for a full year of STEM events and outreach with young people and getting them energized and excited. That will happen in Nashville. We're putting the same type of thing together in Chattanooga. And then we've also just started the Memphis chapter, or West Tennessee chapter of ACC, just started a 501c3 ACE Mentor chapter. There wasn't one in Memphis. There is one in all 3 other states. And so that's really the first measurable goal we've got, is to increase the ACE Mentor program and its influence in Tennessee. And so really pushing hard on all of that. And there will be points that we come to you all and say, hey, we would love it if y'all would come talk about how important it is. And it's really across the board in all of our professions that are represented here that we're trying to influence, and the construction industry, I would say as well, but really excited about moving the needle on some of that. The end.
Thank you, Casey.
All right. Yes, thank you, Casey, for that report. Suzanne Herron or somebody from ASCE. Is there anyone here? Okay, anybody online? Oh, there she is. She's here. Suzanne, you are welcome to speak if you're ready.
Oh,
There you are. I heard you for a second.
here I am.
There you are. We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. That is excellent.
Great.
Thank you so much. And thank you for letting me speak from afar. So
Great,
um,
great.
yeah, and I have not been there in person or virtually to thank you, Alton and Glenn, for speaking at the Tennessee section meeting back in February. So yes, thank you. We do appreciate you coming out. And I think that the discussion has led to some interaction with TTU, with Tennessee Tech. So I hope that's some productive conversation with them. The next Tennessee section meeting will be February 11th and 12th. And yeah, I'm hoping that we can schedule another quick lunch presentation on February 12th. So the Tennessee section of ASCE will be starting the report card process this fall. The last report card was completed in 2022. And during the report card process, we look at infrastructure across the state and give it grades, A, B, C, D. So we go through the grading process. And this process usually takes about a year. So we'll be keeping y'all updated on the report card process as we get it going. So any questions for me?
All right. Thank you, Miss Herron, and I appreciate that update. And it was a pleasure speaking to your group, and you were gracious hosts. We appreciate your hospitality to both Alton and myself, and look forward to doing that again in February. And look forward to that report too. I know it was a C or a C minus. Maybe I don't want to downgrade anybody, but I want to see where we're going to end up if that needle moves in a positive direction or not.
Let's hope so. So yeah, we'll keep y'all posted.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. All
Thanks.
right. Miss Ashley Cates, is she online? All right. Seeing none, then we'll move on to the next one. And just for flow, Jimmy Cleveland from TAPS will be participating as well for professional society reports when we get to there with our joint meeting with Land Surveyors when they join us in August. So that'll be the natural progression. We'll introduce him as a part of that. Let's see, Charles Schneider, are you on? Okay. Seeing none, then I think we're ready for our interior designers. Let's see first if we have anyone here. Yes, ma'am, please. Yes. And you could sign in too. We just want to make sure we capture you for the minute, so. We're throwing up all kinds of barriers here. All right, thank you, Anita. If you could just introduce yourself and then get after it, and we'll go there.
That one. There you go. Hi, my name is Anita Ryan, and I am the president of ASID Tennessee and also a professional member of IIDA Tennessee. And I will be giving our joint report and reports for both societies today. So first, I want to start with the joint. I want to thank you for all the kind words and everything from the board, for your support with everything that went on in recent legislation since February. I'm happy to report that as thanking to our governor and our legislators to work bipartisan together to amend to allow us to keep our Title Act and to also have registration remain on the board. So that was very humbling, and I know you can't have joint support, but y'all have very kind words individually, and we really appreciate that, and that was very much felt. On that note, on March 27th, we hosted an advocacy event with our new lobbyist, Jay Abusi, and we featured some of our national updates and overviews, you know, telling you about the state of the affairs. And we also did an overview on how legislation flows through and, you know, how bill passage, which oddly enough was already on the agenda before everything happened in February. So that was very helpful information. And then we also had our lobbyists come and speak to us, and we talked a little bit more about, you know, how the process works and that type of thing going forward. So our next event, joint event, Better Together Advocacy event, will be held on October 22nd. And this plans to include like local tour of spaces that registered interior designers had a significant part of. And we plan on inviting, and we'd love to have, you know, anybody here that would like to attend when we have more information, more details on that. You know, different legislators, anybody and everybody, to try to get better education about what registered interior designers are and what we do. And then congratulations to, we had an MTSU student who in their junior class that got in the top 10 of a Formica national competition for her furniture design. So I was very, very proud of that. And then congratulations in general to all our interior design graduates. And Neocon and Design Days are in Chicago starting this weekend, starting on the 7th through the 11th, which is the huge furniture and commercial furniture, as well as IDA has their Revel and their stuff there as well this weekend. So as for ASID, we've had UTK come on as a higher education partner, which is wonderful. We recently launched our local Tennessee branch website and updated that, and it's asidtennessee.org. And this enhancement will allow us to have real-time communication with our members and easy to find events and register for events. And our advocacy merch shop and everything is also online there. We've had multiple continuing education events in the past recent month, including our outdoor living event. We hosted a successful student feud competition at California Closets in April, focused on building codes and NCIDQ topics. That was very much success. Upcoming events, June 12th, we have Chattanooga monthly meeting. 18th, we have our industry partner appreciation event. We'll be doing bowling bites at T-Line. So that's something we do annually with our industry partners that support us. And June 23rd, we'll be holding on demystifying the NCIDQ, which is our national certification. So it's going to be an educational session for members and non-members to covering exam requirements. How do you sit for the exam? What do you need to do to get to that? Because that is a prerequisite towards licensure or towards registration with the state. And then June 1st and 2nd, we'll be participating at the Build Expo at the July 1st and 2nd, we'll be participating at the Build Expo at the Music City Center. So it's going to have lots of expert things around bids and construction and different educational topics, AI, all of those wonderful things that you need to know in our industry related to contracts and that type of thing. You can register for free using promo code ASID Tennessee. There's over, at least the last time I looked at, it was probably 120 vendors. So that's going to be an exciting event for us. July 30th, we'll have a meetup for Inspire, which is the big furniture fair. And I know IIDA is also participating in that as well. And then we'll have our strategic plan as well on July 30th. And just to save the date, September 10th and 11th is our annual state conference that will be held in Chattanooga this year. More details on that. As far as IIDA, they've also been very busy. So they also are selling some advocacy t-shirts online for, to raise money for advocacy efforts, and it's on their IIDA Tennessee website. March, we had professional development opportunities, project tours in all our city centers, Memphis and East Tennessee. Memphis had a pickleball event, and our advocacy forum, of course, was on the 27th. April was jam-packed with unplug events around advocacy, Memphis Roundtable, handmade happy hours, and our annual zero landfill event. And then May, we had a new thing that they started, Mothers in Design, and that was in East Tennessee, and that is also coming to Nashville. It's going to be replicated, talking about the unique balance of mothers and working in the field of interior design. Upcoming events, there's a lot of educational, and every year, as I mentioned, Revel is July 7th. So there's a lot of group of our, it's focused around city centers this year. So they will be going up to do their training up in Chicago. June 24th, Memphis City Center has a hands-on craft night, professional development opportunities across the state in July and August. July 23rd is a big East Tennessee event, more details to come. And then new board transitions in July as well. So Allie Bierman's the current president. And it will go over to, I believe it's Brandy Kelly, who will be coming into that role. And then August 20th, Nashville City Center is, as I mentioned, is having the Mothers in Design, and save the date as well for the Design Awards Gala, September 24th. So that we alternate years for the gala versus our Threads event. And this year is going to be the gala event on the 24th. I think that's it. It's a lot. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Anita. Really appreciate all the efforts from all of the organizations too.
And we appreciate you, Melanie.
Well, thank you very much. And we look forward to hearing a lot about what the future of interior design will be in Tennessee.
Yes, our intention is hoping to go for modern legislation this year. Those are discussions that we're having with our national consortium as well. After I talked to the Center Majority Leader, he was like, well, why aren't you going for, licensure, and I was like, well, we were thinking about it, and then all of this happened. So that kind of gave us the oomph to rethink that. So we're dealing with our national consortium and our local consortium, and more details to come on that soon.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Any other questions for her? All right. All right, hearing none, then I think we are free to move on to our next agenda item. And it looks like we're in the director's report. We've got a few items there. Budget, as you know, are informational purposes only. I don't, nothing actionable there, but I'll just give you a quick sort of 30,000 flyover. During our last meeting, we went over the months of record through February. As a result, we'll be focused primarily on the remaining month of record. We've only got one month right now. So we'll probably have 2 or 3 to cover next time. There's a couple things. The 53,824 under other and Edison expenses. You'll probably look over that and see that. We're looking at March, and you see that big total right there under other. Was largely due to 2 grant checks going out later than the rest due to an update in account information requested by fiscal. So you notice right before that, you have the 388,000. That's shy of 400, which is, the amount allocated. So 2 more went out. And so that's what you're seeing there. One of the things that I thought was good, you'll notice too, as we slide over, you'll see that we're running just temporarily a deficit. That's not terribly uncommon, but our margins are a little bit more narrow. I mean, just the cost of doing expense or just living. You know that when you go to the grocery store or anything else you do, go see a movie. Well, we feel that too. So I'm kind of glad at this venture that we haven't really expanded the grants beyond, I think, where they're at. That wasn't really something that was available to us currently this year or next, but I'm glad at this point that we're sort of just getting through this year. I think this will be our first year with the additional expense, the uptick in expenses to really get a feel for where we're going to be. And then also, I wanted to, just for sake of reference too, I did have my my land surveyors. We talked about this at one of our committee meetings, but there's 1,124 registered land surveyors with 722 of those in state, and so I wanted to go over their budget because it's going to impact our budget, and I want you to get a feel of how they're trending and their flow is as well. So the second page, if you look at their budget, a lot of red, and then smack dab in the middle is the green. And so the reason why is that they have a biennial renewal cycle and they all renew together. Everyone expires 12/31/2025. And so they historically run in deficit for the years that they're not renewing. And so they're going to be in the red all next year. That green is their revenues as a result of their renewals. And yeah, that's why you have those 3 months right there. That's why everyone's putting in those renewals, hitting them really hard, and then it just goes red for a while. That's common. That's typical of their trend. But the good news is that they're not in a deficit. They're not going to drag us down or anything. So it's not a big concern. Yeah, Elton, go ahead.
I do have a question since we're adding land surveyors. What is that? I think maybe 3 years ago, Melanie, that we added the schools of interior design to the grants to higher education. I'm assuming since we're adding land surveyors, ultimately at some point we would add them as well.
You would assume correctly. It won't be this cycle because they're closing out, and we're already going to have to send out letters soon. And so it'll be difficult. We have to adjust the guidelines and to include them. And so we'll get a bite of that apple, but it'll be the next round.
Okay. At the risk of my position on the boards, Reed, if you're listening, I apologize. But if in fact we do add them to our list of participants in the grants to higher education, at some point we may need or want to look at our budget for that program and see if there's a mechanism we can use to do something to offset those costs.
Now, they're going to consolidate with us, and that's why I wanted I wanted you to see a snapshot of their overall fiscal health, so you understand how that's going to impact you. Now, they'll have a joint budget probably August if fiscal can get to me quick enough, and so you'll see that in real time. But if for a good example is they're running right now, as you can see, 200,000 in surplus because they're obviously renewal year, and they'll be red all next year. Now they've never had two back-to-back years where you basically have a self-sufficiency hearing if you have 2 years back-to-back where you're in deficit. That's never happened to them, and they've always had enough to cover it. If you look at their reserves, so to be so small is 468,000. That's pretty good to be 1,100. You know what I mean? So they're not going to put us in any sort of exposure is what I mean. So what we're okay. But they're gonna consolidate their budget with ours, with the marriage of the two. So we got one checking account, you know what I mean? So that there'll be one trend.
And my concern is that any addition, we have a limited budget, it's $400,000 now, and that's going to dilute the amount that we go to every other school if we do that, unless we do something to increase that budget.
Right.
Isn't land surveying usually a part of College of Engineering?
Not always.
There's one dedicated program that I'm aware of, that's ETSU.
ETSU, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ETSU and maybe, I think Martin has some classes, but I don't think they have a dedicated program. ETSU's it.
It's usually the case, classes and they can issue a degree.
So yeah, it's, there's not going to be a whole lot of schools is what I mean, kind of dipping into that pot. And ETSU, they've already got to buy the apple, with their engineering program. And so, I suspect we'll hear from them, when that time comes. Won't be for this next cycle though. There's no way to get it done in time with that short of a runway. All right. Any questions on that? All right. And I'm very grateful that they remain in surplus and that they've done so well. We're pretty lean over there. So, and because typically that would pose its own challenges if they were teetering in deficit or have already dipped into that. But there's no projections for that even. We do projections for all of our boards, and they're not on my like danger list. And this board has never been, but land surveyors was never on my list either. So we're in good place on as far as that goes. But it will look different because keep in mind now that renewals are over, they run a deficit. So that's going to cut at least that next year. It's going to cut our surplus dramatically on this year, for the remainder of the year into the next year. And it won't be until they go in renewal that you'll see a nice little spike again to recover that. Okay. All right.
Will their fee structure remain the same, or will they come in to a fee structure similar to what this board has?
Yeah, right now it's going to remain the same because it's their rules. It's based on their rule. And I don't know that we would make any adjustments to that until we had more data, until we have sort of that joint checking account and can see them. Because keep in mind, the reason why they've been in surplus is because of their fee structure. And so we don't want to necessarily have their folks subsidized either, so we just we're gonna have to look at that and then determine, after we have probably a couple cycles, a couple years, and we can look at it before we would do anything with the rules, so that way we know what we know. Yeah. All right. Yes, sir.
Just a question. So once the surveyors board becomes consolidated with ours, will we still be able to see budget separately, or is it all going to be out?
No, it'll be all together. They're gonna have one budget item. So it'll be, everybody will be architects, engineers, and land surveyors, and you'll see at the top, you'll see right now it says it's got all four design professionals listed, and then land surveyors will be added to that. It'll be one budget. They're basically rolling into your account is what they're doing. They're just taking off theirs and rolling into yours.
I personally think if they're gonna join us, we need to charge them an entry fee.
Membership dues. Yeah, I'll run that by them. Yeah, Dr. Ash got all the he's got all the good ideas, doesn't he? All right. Any other questions? I didn't see anything else that jumped out at me, but I did want to note that so that way there's no mystery in that. When you start to see the budget looking a little wonky, you won't, I wanted to give you sort of an overall health summary of that board. Like they're coming with the surplus. They're healthy. They're not going to be dragging anybody down, and we won't be having any discussions about probably fees for at least a couple years when we can track. But you will see a dip in your surplus and then at least for a while, and then I mean, we're already sitting at like 4.4 million. You add that 500,000 on top of that, you're looking at right 5+ million. So we're okay, but we're servicing a lot of folks too. I mean, I gave you that count earlier. There's a lot of folks in the pipeline. So anyway, not necessarily a surprise either that it would be that amount. Yes, sir.
Can you talk about the impact to any of the expenses? Do those remain the same, or do they just, seems like there could be a savings if there's some consolidation there?
Yeah, it's all those administrative cost backs which you're discussing, cloud hosting services, rent, all of that is based on your size, your proportion, I mean, your imprint, your use, and so, for example, even though we're 24,000 people strong, Cosmo and Barber is like 80,000. And so they pay more than us because they're using more of those joint resources. So it's proportionate. So I don't think there's going to be much of a savings because, the reason why they remain in surplus too, their expenses are so small is because proportionally they're being assessed, proportionally to their size of licensure. And so I don't see there's going to be much of a change when they roll into us. It's going to be, a lot of our expenses will be, moderately increased because we're adding 1,100 more, 1,200 more licensees, but not much. And so I don't think we're going to see a big difference on as far as that goes. All right. Any more questions or concerns? All right. Then we'll move on to the next item, which is land surveyor wall certificates and seals. And so typically the thought was to have this discussion when they're here out of a courtesy to them. But it's effective July 1 and we meet August. And so, and there's 3 members, so I can just reach out and ask them. You know what I mean? There's no reason to sort of wait. And so I went and took a poll and 2 of my 3 land surveyors reached out to me. And oh, sorry, 2 or 3 of our land surveyors, they reached out to me and they were good with the wall certificates, just, you know, adopting the engineer certificates. It just makes sense. You know, they have a different format. You saw that. So the real discussion at this point will be the seals. And you have the seals in front of you. I am happy to report it was a pretty overwhelming majority of folks supported. I'll just give you the end. Number 1 was the one that was the clear winner. There was 9 responses, and that 2 of those were land surveyors as well, by the way. And so they're on board with it too. We're not making a decision, you know, absent of them. The majority of our land surveyors, 2 or 3, and the other one didn't respond. So maybe he feels the same way. Who knows? You know, but 9 of the responses chose 1 as their first choice, with 2 of the remaining 3 choosing 1 as their second choice. So basically everybody had 1 on the table. So 1 was pretty much the clear winner on that one. So what we'll need to do though is memorialize that in the form of a vote. Obviously we can discuss it in case someone has a change of heart on the drive in and, you know, wanted to go another direction. We can have that discussion. But that was the results of the silent poll.
Do we have anybody that would like to make a motion recommending
I'll make a motion.
number 1?
I'll make a motion that we accept number 1.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And who was my second there, Frank? Did you capture the second? Yeah. Well, Melanie, then we'll let Melanie, you are the second to our seal. That the heavy weight on your shoulders. Yes, sir. Bill.
Hey, Glenn, I know with the new stamp, there are probably some vendors out there will probably need to know, or I guess the burden of the register when you go make your,
Yeah.
you had to bring that. I guess bring the stamp and show it to them. This is what the new one look like.
What we'll do is we'll send out an e-notify, my Emma. It's basically a blast, everyone that signed up for it, letting folks know that, hey, change the law, change the name, resulting in downstream steel, you know? So that's one of the things on our list of transition, but that's, you know, again, that's coming a little bit further down the pike. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, in some stores, I remember that when we passed our PE, everybody said, go to this store, they'll take care of it. So,
Yeah.
so I mean, I did ask Jason whether he'll float me $50 and make my stamp. Just a personal comment. Thank you.
Yeah, this is for the board, not your personal stamp.
Yeah, this will be the board stamp, but it is good to know for, you know, to your point, there'll still be folks that will, you know, right. But yeah, for the board, yeah. But you know, there are folks with their personal stamp that would want to, they're going to want to put that full name, the proper name in there. So we'll send out to everyone signed up for it. Anybody else hasn't signed up for it, you know, I don't know how to get to them. You know, if there's a clever way to do that, let me know. But you know, we can only use the resource we have in front of us. But we'll let folks know that, hey, look, the name's changing, and as a result, the board seal's changing, and that hopefully will clue people into. And I mean, you know, typically the word travels pretty fast. We send a my Emma, and then word of mouth, it takes off. Folks let everybody know, and then so I feel pretty strong that we'll be at a good place as far as that goes. And there's going to be some growing pains anyway. That's just unavoidable as we go. Yes, sir.
Just follow up, you just reminded me that, you know, a lot of your local code enforcement office, the reviewer probably want to know how the new stamp look like. So we may need a reach out program to them, let them know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Great comments. Thank you. All right. I think we're ready then for the NCWS Southern Zone interim meeting update. I wasn't sure that I was going to get these on the iPads and was going to print that off, but this is James, his notes from the meeting. But we were, fortunately, in this case, the load came a little later than expected, so we were able to get this on there. It should be on your iPads, I think number 5. Yeah, number 5. And then, Mr. Collins, if you wanted to get started and just sort of cover what you got there.
Yeah, so this is a joint effort on the notes. So I was the one that sent them to you, but all of us participated in putting those together. There were just a couple of things that I wanted to mention in particular. One of them was that all the states are having the same problems that we are with the Upwork situation. Everybody is struggling with that. Nobody has a good idea what to do. I know that the NCES is looking at putting together a committee or something to try to help, everybody figure out how to attack that problem. So that's a nationwide issue that everybody's dealing with. The other thing that came up in the engineering forum that was really kind of pleasant surprise to me was that many of the states are doing something very similar to what we're doing for the grants for higher education. There are different forms, some of them are going to, grade schools and high schools. Some of them are going to colleges, but there's a lot of effort going on from all the states, and people are putting a lot of their money behind programs like that to try to get word out to high school, college age kids, to encourage people to go into engineering and to help people get their exams and all that kind of stuff. And that to me was really encouraging to hear that from so many states that were doing that. And maybe others have thoughts you'd like to add too.
I will say that both Jason and James played a major role in that conference. Both of them headed up presentations and were great representatives for the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, we've got, we're pretty well represented between just this board, but land surveyors too. I mean, you've got Tim as our emeritus member, and Lingerfeld, he does one of their committees. Jay's assisted with some of that as well. Kaufman, former member. So, like Tennessee is, pound per pound is, pretty involved and doing a lot of heavy lifting over there. All right. All right. Unless there's any more comments on that, I think we're able to move to the legal section of our agenda and the legal case report in particular. Let me get there myself. All right. So we tried this, and I intimated in our email a consent agenda, for lack of a better term, something that other boards try, and even associations. I'm sure in NCWS typically will, they'll have a consent agenda, and then they'll tell you, hey, which ones do you want to pull? And then folks on the floor will come up to the mic, as you know, and say, we want to pull this, or we want to pull that. And then whatever is remaining is the consent agenda. So you are employing the same, not a novel idea with it, certainly not with us. It's not something we invented, but based on what the Association of the Programs do, we thought this would be a good tool to use here with this board, especially given the fact that we're going to be consolidating. And once we consolidate and take on land surveyor cases as well, then if we don't need to talk about certain ones that we've all reviewed, obviously these are cases that everyone's already seen, read, and familiar with, and have a recommendation either from a subject matter expert, either hired or from the board itself, in concert with the attorney with experience in that, then so it's that they've already been vetted. And so unless there's something that needs to be discussed, that would become a consent agenda. And so as a result of that, we're going to make that attempt, today as well. And we did try it with land surveyors, and it worked very well. We got through their report, and it was a pretty lengthy report, 10 plus pages, whatever, something to that effect. And we got through that in about an hour. And we felt good about the recommendations and the decisions that were made. So anyway, that's where we're going with that. Yes, sir.
How would we go about that? I mean, obviously, I think each of us review this prior to coming to this meeting. And I've reviewed all the engineer ones this time, and would clearly recommend that we approve the recommendations by consent. There was only one question that I had to do with one of the 73 that Rick reviewed this time.
Yeah.
And it was number 2. It was a professional architect, but in the language, this is administratively open complaint respondent is a professional engineer. And the same thing down at the bottom, offering to practice engineering in the state. I think that should be converted to architecture.
So that's number 2.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's how we handle it. You just showed us how we're gonna do it. We go through them and then we're gonna go across. I'm gonna open it. I'm gonna keep a record along with legal to keep us straight. So number 2 is pulled from that report. So we're gonna discuss number 2. And so now, are there others that you would like to include, that you'd like to pull? From the
Glenn,
consent agenda?
just a point of procedure here, because I've run into this. I'm very familiar with this process and procedure, and I like it, and it helps a tremendous amount. So I'm all for it. If we pull something, have the discussion, and it affects something that we had already approved on the consent agenda, we should have the ability to go back and to review that when that was previously approved on the consent agenda. Correct?
That's
Okay,
correct.
just want to make sure
Because
that
you
that's
have the
available
time
to us.
allotted for that, for the legal report, so we can go back and pick that up if we need
Right.
to. But
Okay.
it would need another motion.
Well,
we
you're going to
just
go
can't
through and describe all of these, and we're going to pull them, however many there are, and then we will approve the consent agenda, and then we go back to those individual items? Is that how this?
That is
okay.
exactly how it'll
Okay.
work. And then
Okay.
we'll go through each one of those items that were pulled. So right now, what's on my list is number 2. And so, are there others that the board would like to pull?
Number
Glenn, can we
14 and
kinda-
number 18.
14 and 18? Okay.
Yeah, I'd say go around the room.
Yep.
We've heard from Alton and from Blair.
Mhm.
I have questions, just making sure I understand some logic on number 1.
Okay, and that's fine. And just so you know, the land surveyors did that. We had a consent agenda, and then there was like 1 or 2 they had questions about that could make the consent agenda. So then we touched on those, and then we included it as part of the consent agenda, and they were good. Yeah, so you just have some questions on number 1. So I'll put that as a maybe.
Okay.
And instead of jabbing at it, if you want to, what we used to do in the planning commission, you'd say, number 1, da, 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 da. Any things about it being on the consent agenda? And then he'd say, yes, okay. Then you just read them off like
Right.
quickly. And then that way you won't have, 2, 6, 7,
Right.
we can do just kind of.
Right, yeah, no, that's fine. We would read them at the end, but we can read them as we go as well. It's probably easier to make sure we capture
just a
everyone.
quick thing.
Yep.
And then that way, are there any things about it? And then
Yep.
he could say, yes, I do have a question. Okay,
Okay.
that goes on the.
All right,
off of
very
it.
well. So,
Just an idea. I mean.
yeah, no, I think that's fine. Are you legal good with that? I don't want to. Okay. All right, so, and I'll let you read them in, and then I'll just record with you. How about that? Yep. All right.
So I'm going to start from the beginning just to make sure we, are thorough here. So number 1, case number 2025037181. Believe we were going to discuss that one, just to clarify.
We had a question about it.
No, we're just going to make the list. So number 1, case number 2, 2025022141. We're pulling that one as well. Number 3, 2025006031. Anybody like to discuss that one? Number 4, 2025039061. Any discussion there?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, back up to number, excuse me, number 3.
Yes.
We were going to discuss assigning another member to review the structural. Is that just,
Mhm.
it's going to be okay on this and that'll come back, or is it now the time?
No,
to
we
discuss
can,
that?
we can pull that one as well. So we'll just
Okay.
pull it because
Thank you.
if there's any items, like if there's anything that you want to discuss at all, then, then we need to pull it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got 1, 2, and 3 pulled right now. So we're on number 4 then.
All right. Case 4, 2025039061. No discussion on that one. Case 5, 2025034921. No discussion. Case 6, 2024-066-591. No discussion. Number 7, 2025-05-3311. No discussion. Number 8, 2026-001-051. No discussion. Number 9, 2026-020951. No discussion. Number 10, 2026-020941. No discussion. Number 11, 2026-01101. No discussion.
So, question, I don't necessarily need to discuss 11, but when I'm going to be talking about number 1, I'll be referring to it. So I don't know if it makes any difference.
I'll go ahead and throw it on there just so we.
So number 11 then, we're pulling that one.
All right, 11 added to that. Let's see. Number 12, 2026-0111111. No discussion. Number 13, 2026-005481. No discussion. Number 14, we flagged for discussion. It's 2026-011531. Number 15, 2026-012761. All right, flagging that one. Number 16, 2026-007941. No discussion. Number 17, 2026-011481. No discussion. On the representations, number 18, we have pulled. Number 18 is 2025-050621. And then last, number 19, 2025-034-021. No discussion on that one. So we'll, I guess, Glenn, do you want to?
Yep. All right, so we're pulling, and then legal, just if you could make sure I'm accurate. We're pulling 1, 2, 3, 11, 14, 15, and 18. And we will discuss each of those. All right. Is that your recollection? Okay. So then that means the remaining ones that we did not flag for discussion, that will be the consent agenda. And then we would just need a motion in that.
Move to approve.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and approved to approve these legal cases as a consent agenda. And
Clarification, when I talked about 11, I was going to refer to it. We don't need to necessarily discuss that case.
Well, and that's okay. You can, we'll put on there and then,
Okay.
we'll vote on that separately,
Okay.
just in case we get
That's
into it. Yep. Yep.
okay, is there any discussion?
Got one.
Phil?
Hey, Glenn, I don't want to create more work for the board here, but I know we said that we pull 1, 2, 3, 11, 14, 15, 18, and then you make a statement, say the rest will be considered a discussion, right? Would it be okay just if you don't read it out here, at least an agenda pointed out those, just to be clear?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So your consent agenda, we can read those cases. Is that okay? Yeah. So your consent agenda would be cases 4, which is 2025039061. Case number 5, 2025034921. Case number 6, which is 2024066591. Case number 7, this is all consent agenda. Case number 7, 2025053311. Case number 8, 2026001051. Case number 9, 2026020951. Case number 10, 2026020941. Case number 12, which is 2026011111. And then case number 13, 2026005481. Case number 16, which is 2026007941. Case number 17, 2026011481. And then case number 19, 2025034021. That's your consent agenda. Yep. And so we have a motion in that effect and a second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. And so now we'll go back and pick up the stragglers. And so, and that would be 1, 2, 3, 11, 14, 15, and 18. So then,
Good morning. So this is case number 1-202-503-7181. This is a case where an engineer worked on an expired license overseeing about 53 forensic reviews. The respondent self-reported, has no prior history, and it does seem they genuinely believe they renewed and realized when they were renewing, when they tried to renew again, like at the next renewal cycle, that had not happened. This was reviewed by Dr. El Said. The recommendation was $5,300 civil penalty for violations of Tennessee Code annotated 62-2-105A1D and Tennessee Code annotated 62-2-105B1. And then to also require the respondent to pass to complete and pass the rules and laws exam. Yes.
Just, okay, just a little bit of background. The initial recommendation was a $500 fee, charge and then passing the laws and rules exam. And then I asked for a sample of these reports to look at, to see how in depth they are when it comes to engineering practice. I looked at 5 of them. 4 of them were looking like if you hired a technician or a plumber or somebody to come and assess a condition in your house. One of them, commented on the structural integrity of a building. So that's why I felt like $500 is not sufficient. And in the same time, we cannot charge $500 per incident. That would be too steep.
So I had some questions on, I wasn't clear. We have a few cases where it talks about there was a lapse in renewal. How long was the lapse for this one?
I
I didn't see it stated in.
think it was a little over a year. I don't have the details with me now.
I believe it was for 2 years. Did I miss?
From September of 24, it looks like.
So about 2 years, yeah.
Okay, and
Less than 2 years, since it's not yet September.
they mentioned that all of the 53 were performing forensic reviews, but some of the ones that you actually looked at were not the
Yeah,
case.
I asked for a sample of those and they sent 5 reports. So 4 were straight conditions, basically visual evaluation of something happened after a storm. But when I see a comment on a structural integrity, that gets a little bit more into engineering practice, not just hiring a technician or somebody to look at your house after a storm.
So potentially 20% of those 53 might not have really been forensic.
It was 1 out of 5 from the sample. Yeah, if you apply the statistics, it's 20%.
Well, I'm just saying that they were very specific to say they were only forensic. You discovered they were not. And when I mentioned earlier about referring, I wanted to refer to case 2. It was a much smaller amount. The fine was, or assuming we approve it, was $9,000. Case 11 was for 13 projects and was $13,000. And I understand that for this one, you've suggested $5,300. I know we've had a lot of discussion before about being consistent. So I just wanted to get the board's thoughts and opinions on that, but also was wondering the logic behind determining the 5,300. I know
It
we
was
said.
53 reports.
So,
Yeah, but I think some of that rises to the level of the threat to the public's health, safety, and welfare.
right.
And if it's just a report where they're talking about the condition of something they've assessed, that's one thing. But if it's talking about the structural integrity of a building, or in the architect's cases, those were actual designs, if I'm not mistaken. So again, if,
In case two, they were expired for 6 years.
oh, 6 years.
As well.
So generally, look, I think we ought to have the latitude to make a determination about the threat to the public health, safety, and welfare when we assess a civil penalty or fine. And I think that's what Ash was talking about, is some of these really didn't maybe rise to that severe level as some of the cases that Rick had reviewed did. Did I miss? I'll defer to Rick or Ash on either one of those.
Yeah, you stated correctly.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, moving into case number 202-502-2141. Like I said, this was a professional engineer whose license expired for 6 years. They reported 9 projects during that time that they worked on. This was reviewed by Rick Thompson, and the recommendation was $9,000 civil penalty for violations of Tennessee Code annotated 62-2-105A1D and Tennessee Code annotated 62-2-105B1, and to also require the respondent to pass and complete the rules and loss exam.
And I did agree with the recommendation. The only difference is this was listed as a type of licensed professional architect. And then in the body of the explanation, it says engineer and engineering.
So I did clarify this, the typo is in the narrative. This is an architect. So we'll be sure to correct that in the narrative, and I apologize for that.
That's okay. That's all I had.
Okay, everybody has had a chance to review this item with a revision for it to be for him to be named as an architect rather than engineer. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. So case number 3, which is case 202-500-6031. Respondent is an architect and the complainant is a codes department. The complainant objected to the term apartment used in the plans, I believe. The code department also feels the respondent submitted incomplete drawings, and in general, their communication with the codes department was not very professional. Reviewing board member wanted to require the respondent to submit all the drawings so that he could review the plans prior to determining appropriate action, and to also have an engineer on the board with structural engineering experience to also review the plans. So, and this is 2 separate complaint numbers, but it's the same recommendation. So that they would, so the other, here, I'll read the other complaint number is 202-503-7681. Is there someone with structural engineering on the?
Who had the, who had?
This is
the-
Rick
He's
Thompson.
recovering in the hospital.
No, I'm saying who had the concern over that? I don't remember.
It seems like
Somebody
Eddie
raised
is
that.
our structural engineer, so we might just volunteer him. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay. I just didn't remember who had the question.
Jeff, was that you?
No,
I believe
I-
we just
I'm-
needed an
because
engineer
there's a
assigned.
defer.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I brought it up so we could get an assignment.
Eddie's the
He's
the
the one.
choice.
Okay.
He's the structural guy.
Do
We'll be
we,
sure
Just tell him to
to
hurry up.
this complaint is old,
Mhm.
and I would really, really like to get it resolved. This architect has been cited by this board multiple times, complaints by others. And if Eddie is not going to be up to reviewing it, I would like to see if we can find someone that can, because my opinion is that they're inadequate, but then I don't want to be challenged that I'm not an engineer, which I am not. And
Okay.
so that's my only concern, is that I'd like to get past this one if we could, since
Okay.
I think it's a 24 case.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So we can
Thank you for bringing that
send
up.
these documents to Eddie and just ask him if this is something he
That
can do
would be
pretty
great.
quickly. And if not, we'll just pick some other lucky.
Okay, well, I
engineer.
I do like your recommendation,
Yeah.
and maybe we let Eddie look at this
Uh-huh.
and see if it's something that he can do. If the recommendation is to give them 30 days, which the municipality has asked multiple times for the same thing we're asking for, and we're never provided to them.
Okay.
So, if we don't get response, then I want to move on, and I'll make recommendations,
Okay.
and we'll see how that falls.
Got it.
But I would really like to see if we can't put this one behind us.
Mhm.
So, thank you.
I need a motion.
Yeah, I assume what we're recommending is that this continue.
We're going to require that he send us all of his drawings, all the
Right.
construction drawings about the project. So we'll
Right.
send him a letter, like a demand letter for that.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, number 11. I believe this one was pulled for discussion, but this is a lapse in licensure that occurred from January 31st, 2024 through February 12th, 2026. Given the length of time that passed and the 13 projects reported by the respondent, it was recommended to assess a $13,000 penalty, which was $1,000 per project.
So I don't have any discussion on it. Again, I was just looking at, it was in a batch of the three that I was trying to consolidate.
Make
so-
sure they're consistent.
Yeah.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So move.
We have a motion. And do we have a second?
Second.
We have multiple motions and seconds. Okay, is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, number 14, case 2026-011-531. This is a reapplication for a professional landscape architect. This individual also had a lapse in licensure from July 31st, 2024 through March 13th, 2026. The individual reapplied, and when they reapplied, they had marked that they practiced the profession in Tennessee with the expiration of their license. When they received the complaint, they explained that their role does not involve the practice of being a professional landscape architect. And so the recommendation was to close, as they improperly answered that question on reapplication.
I reviewed this item, and for a point of clarity in the first sentence, I believe the word "not" needs to be added. Respondent indicated that they had not practiced the profession in Tennessee, because I believe everything I read is that they said, look, I'm really not practicing landscape architecture, even though I had a license and I allowed it to lapse. Now they want to come back and re-up their license. Well, I think all of us know that as you look to the future, you might need that license, and maybe that was just a different decision that he made. But there was nothing that he was doing that I read or looking on their website. We saw nothing that labeled him as a landscape architect, that he identified himself as a landscape architect. Their website did not identify him as a landscape architect. So I truly believe that he was working with a developer, and he provides guidance as many other design professionals do with other developers or so on. So that's why I made the recommendation that I did.
And just for clarity, I think the first sentence would need to remain the same. It's just they indicated they had practiced it on the application itself. That was the only place where he made the representation, was that
Okay.
on the application he had done that.
Okay.
I see how that's confusing
Okay.
now.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any other discussion? Philip?
I got a quick question. In the past, when we close a case like that, usually we try to issue a letter of caution or something like, would it be something that agreeable to him? Because I know I understand what Blair is coming from, that he really kind of truly misunderstand. I don't want him to go to, or this person go to the law and rules exam, which, but I think at least a letter just like, hey, we are aware of misunderstanding. This is what in the future. Seek clarity before you check it. Thank you.
I would
They do
defer
get
to
a
you,
s-
Blair.
Yeah, they get a closure letter, if that helps. They do get a closure.
That would be a good idea.
So this portion will be shown on his record. No?
A letter of caution is not considered formal discipline.
Okay, Alton, did you make the motion?
Yes.
Would you like to add that to your motion?
I'd include the amendment and so moved again.
Okay, and second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next case, number 15, 2026-012-761. This is a professional engineer who had reapplied for renewing their license. On the application, they had indicated that they had practiced the profession while their license was expired. The expiration was from July 31st, 2025 until February 25th, 2026. Similar to the last complaint, when this respondent was contacted about what work he had done during that time, they stated that there was no professional engineering services provided to the public during the time that the license was expired, and they also misunderstood the question.
Yes, this is the one I asked to be pulled. And so my question is, did they represent themselves as an engineer during that 6-month period? If so, that's a violation as well. And I don't know what they consider to be practice. Well, some people say, well, I didn't sign and seal any plans. Okay, that's one thing. But if they passed out business cards that said they were a professional engineer, if they had something represented on their website that said they were an engineer. So that was my question. Did any of that occur during that 6-month period?
I'm not certain, and so I would rather review this and bring it back to you than give you an answer right here.
Do we know if this person is domiciled in Tennessee, or is he just applying for a renewable license and is not domiciled in Tennessee?
I don't have that handy either. I can look into both of
That
those
would make a
things.
difference to me. Because if he's applying for a license in Tennessee, but he's not practicing here, if he's domiciled somewhere else, and he's not necessarily then offering to practice in Tennessee, he's just renewing his license.
Still like to know.
Yep, I agree.
General question, how long does it usually take between the applicant saying yes, practice, my license will expire, and opening up the case of the district? That's not great.
Glenn can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that the team submits those as they apply for reapplication. So if they select that box, the team automatic. Go ahead, Glenn.
That's correct. It happens like real time as we're processing that application. If they check yes, then our folks, Ashley and Megan and Tammy, they just immediately submit the admin complaint. And oftentimes I'll reach out just to make sure that's still the process, do sort of a spot check and say, hey, did we submit that admin complaint? And I haven't had anyone say, "Oh, forgot." That's pretty consistent. So it happens like immediately. As soon as now we don't delay on their if they're subject to renewal and they don't have, if the only thing was they didn't renew, you know what I mean? Then we're going to renew them. We're not going to let them languish for another 2 or 3 months because they need to get right, and if there's disciplinary action that might keep them from the renewal, that's a different thing. We'll have that in committee discussion. But if it was just, I forgot, and they had that lapse, then we submit the admin complaint and then we investigate them. But it happens real time as soon as we approve their renewal.
Would it be then appropriate in this case to make a motion that we defer this until staff has time to determine, one, whether or not this person's domiciled in Tennessee, and whether or not he was intentionally offered to practice or holding himself out as a licensed engineer in Tennessee and practicing here?
Yes, we can definitely do that.
Then so moved.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and then we have case number 18. This is a representation, and this is case 202-505-0621. So this was presented to the board, I believe, at the last meeting, and basically it was a professional architect who submitted plans that also included like sealed plumbing and mechanical design drawings as part of the HVAC updates. And there was like a lot of back and forth with them saying these were created by proper licensed individuals. And at the time, the board determined that he or they had acted outside of the parameters of their license and recommended a $15,750 civil penalty. So that consent order was sent out, and the respondent's attorney reached out to our legal counsel. This person is now retired. They aren't actively working anymore anywhere, including in Tennessee, and are unlikely to pay the civil penalty. Doesn't seem like they will be able to pay the civil penalty. So in lieu of a civil penalty, they would agree to sign a consent order where he would surrender his license, which is the same as a revocation, but when they offer it, we would call it like a surrender. So that is the new recommendation.
I was the one that asked this to be pulled, and I want to make sure that in this situation, this individual is now retired and is no longer practicing engineering, no matter in what state.
Mhm.
My concern is setting precedent that somebody from another state that's licensed in 20 states decides that, okay, I got in trouble in Tennessee, and so I'm just going to let my license go. The difference here is that in this case, this individual is now retired.
Mhm.
I'm just concerned about setting precedent. So I think you answered my question.
Okay.
So with the agreement to surrender his license, that would go on his record?
Yes.
Correct? Okay, because my concern is that he may be retired in Tennessee, but not in other states, and we would want them to not be
No,
caught
this
by
would
this.
be considered formal discipline. Sometimes we don't recommend a civil penalty, right? We would recommend revocation. This is the same thing in effect, but it's when the person is volunteering to give up their license, we call it a license surrender, which is sort of part of the give and pull, I think, of settling a case. It's more polite. But yes, they are retired, and truthfully, we probably would not be able to get the civil penalty from this person.
Laura, just a quick question. I know that there are people that can carry the moniker retired on their
Mhm.
business card and still hold it out as but
This is surrendering their license completely.
I know, but if he ever does come back in, he's retired,
Mhm.
but if he ever does come back in and apply for a license, we track that correctly.
Yes.
And at that point, in order for him to come back as a licensed architect, what steps do we take? Or maybe more importantly, what fines or fees do we implement?
So whenever somebody has their license revoked by the board, which is essentially what this will be, and then they reapply, that like prior revocation is always, for the board's consideration. So it would be one of the many things you could consider to deny a license. So if a person was to have their license revoked or they surrendered their license under order, which this would be, and then say a couple years from now they reapplied, we would say the board has a signed agreed order where they revoked/surrendered their license in 2026. And therefore the board does have discretion to deny this license. And then at that time you would discuss how you want to proceed.
I have a question about.
The mic there.
I have a question about the original decision. I know we concurred with it. And it was basically a fine per drawing. So 750 for times 5 for the plumbing drawings.
Mm-hmm.
So we are considering every drawing as an incident because I think our rules states, it's per incident. Is that something that we can defend legally? If a lawyer on the other side and saying this is, that the set of drawing is an incident. We're saying every drawing is an incident. Does that open us up to?
So the
legally?
statute allows up to $1,000 per violation per day that the violation occurs. That's kind of all it says. There are certain things the board is tasked with considering, like what was the harm to the public? Like what is the determinant? Like what are we trying to deter? There's a couple more. I don't remember off the top of my head, but there are certain things you're supposed to consider. But that is sort of the guidelines, right? $1,000 per violation per day that the violation occurred. How you I think that the board is valid in determining that each drawing was a separate violation, is how you want to look at it. I know that doesn't mean you always have to do that, right? You've seen earlier up in the report where we said, okay, we're going to, like, as long as we're not exceeding that amount and as long as there's some logic, we aren't being arbitrary, the board has discretion to determine based on the various factors that you guys talk about all the time, how you're going to calculate that. This is a pretty high penalty, but I think it would have been defensible. But does that answer your question? Okay. But I will also add that a defense attorney can also always, they make their arguments too, so.
Yeah, we've all seen the new recommendation. Do we have a motion? We have a motion, need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I would like to return to number 15 on the legal report. I got the information on that, and so we can get that one resolved, hopefully. But again, this was number 15, 2026-012-761. So this individual is domiciled in Tennessee, and in their response, they clarified that they are an employee of the local government. However, their role does not require a license. And so when they read the question about working with the public, they thought that their role working with the public and their government role was, but not working with the public as a professional engineer.
Yeah, so to me, the question still is there, even though they work for the government and their job doesn't require them to be an engineer. If they represent themselves to be an engineer, they're still in violation. So that's my concern.
Okay, so I guess, like, do you want me to ask the individual if they were asked representing themselves, or do you want me to locate it online, or I guess what?
Yeah, I mean, lots of times we can look at that stuff online, and I'd be glad to take a look at that case if you want to send it to me to do that. We can, find stuff online that shows whether or not they've represented themselves as an engineer.
Okay.
Did he respond with a letter, with maybe his title in there?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that I don't disclose any,
Well, and keep in mind, we're touching on territory of appellations. Remember that? We've had that discussion about appellations and use of that and what's a clear violation, what isn't. There's so much that's exempt, the board doesn't have the corner on the market of just the word engineer. It's how it's applied because, and the industry is having that discussion, as you know, too. And we kind of landed after that discussion, and we had a very robust discussion 2 or 3 times about that. And we landed that we really just need to wait on the industry to see. And I think they're moving towards professional engineer, and that just the use of the engineer, the word, the appellation engineer isn't going to be enough to put somebody in violation. That was where we landed last time.
I also just want to add that I think Joey's recommendation here is in part because we don't have any allegation that this person ever represented themselves that way. This was, they renewed on an application and then realized that they mistakenly answered a question and then sent us in the response to that. We don't have any allegation or evidence to suggest that they ever did that, that they have ever represented themselves as a professional engineer while their license was lapsed. So I think that was why Joey made the recommendation to close.
Yeah, I understand. I'm thinking of another case that I looked at not too long ago where there was a very similar situation. A person was employed by a government agency. Their job did not require them to sign and seal drawings, but they consistently represented themselves as an engineer to the public. And even
I
in their
remember that
response,
case. That was pretty brazen.
yeah, even in their response to the board,
Yeah.
they signed the letter as professional engineer. And, they said, well, I don't sign and seal drawings, so I'm not performing engineering work.
That was a very brazen case. And if you would really like to review this, then that's fine. We had a lot of details that were sent to us that this person was acting inappropriately, where that is not the case here. But if you would still like to review the website,
Yeah,
that's.
I'd be glad to do
Okay.
that.
Hey, just for my own education here, but isn't it true that in governmental structure, I'm gonna use example of a city engineer. Most city engineer has a PE, but they don't really offer services to the public. The fact that you hire somebody who is a PE to be a city manager, he's more an administrator role than actually a design role. So when we get cases like that, one of the things, James, I was thinking about the code enforcement group of people. I'm thinking of a smaller city that have worked before, that they pretty much do it all, but that doesn't mean they offer services. But they also depend on other professionals to actually do the design work. For example, a road improvement project, they will look it over, and because they're active registered in Tennessee, they usually will have they will not stamp the letter, but they will sign off as a PE. But to your point, if you sign off as a PE with an expired license, then I think you need to self-report that, in my mind. And in this case, sounds like he did it mistakenly, and I don't think so. At the end of the day, we can say to the city official, say, "Hey, you got your PE. You're not supposed to offer your license, your experience to the public." But he or she is going to carry the stamp for the city, but the city doesn't require them to do it. That's the way I understood. I hope that helps clarify a few things here. I know we're a little bit nervous about people using PE, and I am too. So thank you.
And generally, my experience is, and we work with a lot of, quote, city engineers, they don't practice engineering. They review what other engineers do maybe, or they set a scope that they would like for an engineer to provide services for, but they're really not practicing engineering.
And even to push it a little bit further, to a lot of your reviewer, they review electrical, mechanical engineer drawing, they are not professional engineers. Most of them are coding for, like, I'm talking about the NEC code for electrical engineer. The reviewer actually reviewed the work of the professional engineer who submit the plan to the city. But at that point, what their job is to make sure that it's not conflicting with what the city has their own sets of rules versus the NEC rules. So which comes first, the kind of thing. So they, for accuracy purposes. Thank you.
Yeah, Alton, I would not have as an absolute position as you do about them not acting as an engineer. They may not be signing and sealing drawings, but I was a city engineer for 6 years. I didn't sign and seal any drawings, but I acted as a professional engineer daily in my job. So I think you have to look at it on an instance.
On a case-by-case
Yes.
basis, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about where this individual was or what the requirements of his job or office were. Again, most of the folks we work with are towns of 5,000 or less, but
Yeah.
so in those positions, they're not practicing engineering, but in a larger city, maybe so.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's the legal report. Was there anything else legal that y'all had or, okay. Y'all did a great job. I was thinking, maybe the land surveyors would best us, but you didn't give them that opportunity. So, y'all did great. That was a good trial run and we'll just, that's how it'll work next time too. We'll go through each one and thank you, Brian, for that recommendation and we'll just pull them like we did last time. So good job. All right. The next item is the committee reports, and then James is lead on both of those, engineer committee and bylaws. So I'll let you run through that.
Yeah, the engineer committee met this morning. Then we had 3 application reviews that we discussed and made decisions on. There's no other action that was done by that committee. The bylaws committee met. We discussed the proposed changes that we had recommended at the last meeting, made a couple of additional edits and changes to it, and we'll be putting together a revised set of bylaws for that committee to review at the August meeting. Then hopefully the revised bylaws will go to the full board after that.
Good job. All right. And, if we get into it, and there's nothing really, I mean, you know what, James, it's up to you. But if you want to, we could just make an agenda item and not even do a committee because I don't think there was anything just like, so pressing. And the board's gonna have to discuss it anyway. So we'll just, if you're okay with that, we'll just make it an agenda item. We pretty much got the revisions down at this point. So we're only, moving a couple deck chairs here and there. Really, it's about so, okay, we'll do that then. Thank you for that. Thank you for your work on that, both committees as well. And so, anyway, so good work. And then before we get to new business, legal, did you have something else you want?
I did have one update. As of yesterday, the long-awaited rules are in effect. So definitions and some of the retrospective review are officially in effect as of yesterday. I'm very proud of it. So.
She needs to be proud of it because that was robust rules, and she brought that across she won't brag on herself, but I will. But she brought that across the threshold because it was as you know, it kept growing and growing and growing, and she said enough, and so we got it up there and it's done. So it's in the books. It's
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Glenn.
All right. And just in time too, because we get another rules package now that we're consolidating the board. So, but could you imagine that one bumping into this one? Yeah, I'm glad.
That'll be Joey's.
Yeah,
rules
Joey. Right. All right. So, do we have any new business? Okay. Hearing none, then that was Alex.
Could I make one
Yes, sir.
one statement? I really appreciate the way the board has pulled together on these civil penalties and having some continuity. And your comment about we have that latitude to adjust as we think that might be fair. And I just want to thank everybody and thank legal for your recommendations for the 81 you said that I reviewed. Was it 81? No, 73. Not quite 73. But anyway, thank you.
Our sergeant of arms over there. Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah, that was ours. That's one of us. Yeah. So I didn't, Alex may want to make a public comment, but I doubt it. So we're ready for public comments. Is there anyone online that would like to, would like to make a comment? If so, please sign in. We'll pause for just a moment to give them opportunity if there's anybody that'd like to do that. Okay, nobody online. Let me check behind me. So familiar faces, no one here as well. So then Chair, it's your prerogative to adjourn if you like.
I would like to declare that we are adjourned.
Yes, sir. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.